What's up, everybody? ZFarls here with your offensive position heroes in Madden Ultimate Team. Now, in our last video, we broke down the defensive heroes, and we concluded that there's basically 3 to 4 really good players that you could add to your lineup if you're trying to build the top tier team. But right now, the price for those players, unless you had kind of what you needed to complete those sets, was a little bit inflated until it comes down. So guys like Telvin Smith that you want to add to your lineup for their great coverage, great speed, great athleticism, you might just have to wait a little bit unless you had the elite badges ready to go. I know a lot of you guys, after that came out, projected towards the offensive heroes, did some work cleaning up your binder, getting in good position for these players, and you are rewarded because there's some good options in this. So let's break down each of these players, and we'll go through the offensive heroes. Quick note on this weekend in Ultimate Team, it's going to be a super active weekend. You have the last weekend of the Season 3 ladder, so players in Draft Champions ranked, salary cap ranked, trying to qualify, trying to climb that last leaderboard spot and get in position. You've got the Patriots Club Series event going on with Skimbo, different players all competing in that one, Voltarax, and then in Buffalo on Sunday. So the Twitch community will be active. The solos will be active. The sets will be active. Everything is shaping up for a huge Ultimate Team weekend, so let's not waste your time. All right, first one up. We'll start from the bottom and we'll get to the top. Adam Vinatieri, because this is why I love Ultimate Team. This is why. Let me explain. He has clutch kicker and focus kicker. Before, I don't believe there's any player that had both. So clutch kicker means you can't be iced. Focus kicker means your kick meter's slow. Before, you had to pick. But he only has 93 kick power. So 94, I believe, is the highest in the game right now. So while you get both those abilities, and like how often does clutch kicker really matter, but when it does, it does. And then focus kicker, you want it for sure, but it also makes the kick meter go really slow. So if it's the end of the game and a crunch time field goal, and there's 10 seconds running, you're better off with a regular kicker, even though it's tougher to make the field goal. So you have to decide, do I want the maximum distance with a 94 power kicker? Do I want him to be focused, or do I want him to be clutch? And they balanced this stuff really well. Like Randall Cunningham came out earlier. He didn't have conductor, but he was the best statistically. So if you wanted to use his best ratings, you didn't have conductor. There's all types of tough decisions. And this Vinatieri is like a small, I know it's a kicker, but it's a small like display. It's like a micro version of the macro reason that I love Mutt. Hopefully that helps him make sense. But I really like him. I think I would use him probably over anybody. Unless his price was super high, I would just grab the 94 focus kicker, and I would either practice making clutch kicks, or I would maybe grab a punter that had clutch. It's some guys in and out, try and find a way. But there's a really good kicker. He's not the most expensive one that just came out. He's previous. He's a better value. I think it's like Sam Jones. He's better value-wise than the previous guy that came out for heroes on defense, the punter. Brian Bulaga gets a right tackle. Some good linemen in this one. This is a pass blocking specialist, 93 strength with 95 pass block. If you're focused on pass block, grab him. But at the same time, unless he gets secure pass blocker, I would rather use a guy with a little bit lower ratings, even though he has tremendous pass block ratings, a guy with secure pass blocker, because I think it's important right now, and people seem to be using it and enjoying it. Zietler is always one of my favorite items because of his balance and strength. He's a run block first guy. He's a great budget player, and obviously he builds up really nicely over time. Look at that impact block. This is a tremendous balanced player. Doesn't have identifier, doesn't have secure pass blocker, but that's less important at the guard position. So, you know, if you don't use identifier, then he's a guy you could pick up. At center, another Cowboys lineman who a lot of people have already built towards. He's a run block specialist with 91 strength and 91 pass block. No identifier, so something to consider. But, I mean, if you already have Dallas, he's the next guy that you would want to plug in. Josh Sitton is a left guard. He grabs a pass block style guy. Doesn't have the secure pass blocker at this moment, it appears. 92 strength. 95 pass block, which is very good at the left guard position. There are some really good left guards out there, though, so I would stay with the left guard I have for right now, pending the price. But I really like the initial left guard, Legend Matthews that came out. He has identifier, because I think one of your guard spots should have it. If you're trying to build the ultimate team, you know, if you're in that budget range and looking for some steals, the position heroes are going to tend to be more expensive, but they are going to flatten the market, potentially make other guys less expensive. So I would then go to those older items. That's where you're going to find the budget values, because I know you guys watch this channel for different reasons. And then lastly, Joe Thomas. I mean, he's the cream of the crop of this one. He's a pass block specialist, and he has secure pass blocker. So right now you've got Jake Long, Jack Conklin, Whitworth. All those guys have this. He's probably the highest rated pass blocker with secure pass blocker. Run block's 90, which is awesome, but that's the lowest tier I'd like to see at this point. So you can definitely pick up a Joe Thomas and feel confident that you basically got a guy who's going to survive through the end of the game, and he has the best chemistry at the position, or best ability chemistry at that spot. Now we'll get into skill players, which I know you guys have all been waiting for. There are some really, really good ones. We'll kick it off with Big Ben Roethlisberger. He's the quarterback in this one. Deep threat ×2, which is good, and then Pittsburgh ×2, so maybe Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. You could grab some boosts from those guys. 79 speed is pretty good. He's always going to have really high strength, but it's not a big factor at the quarterback position. 95 throw power, 93 short, 96 mid, 92 deep. So he has everything you could possibly need. Now, he doesn't have conductor, but he could in the future get a milestone conductor. And we talk about it a lot. What is the premier quarterback ratings at this point in the season? Like, what do you need? Is Eli Manning that came out the guy? Is the Tom Brady that came out the guy, but he's not mobile? Is it the Russell Wilson who's more athletic? Is it Vic? Do you go big? I mean, it's really hard to play Vic in salary cap. Like, you really got to make a tough decision if you're going to play Vic, because his cap is definitely huge. He could do more than any other player in the game by a mile, but it's like driving a Ferrari. You got to be really good with him to get that value out of him, because he'll cost you probably another receiver. So Big Ben, I think 94 throw power is the lowest I want to see on my team. I think that short is great. I think the mid is great, and I think his deep is rock solid. I don't see anything that worries me about him aside from not having conductor. I know a lot of people like that. It's not really for me, but it's something to consider if that's how you have been building your offense previously, because when you go back off of conductor, it feels slow. Like, if you're used to using conductor and then you don't have one, it's like, like, you get caught up sometimes because you've had the luxury of making those double adjustments. But we'd have to see where his price settles in. He's probably going to be expensive early, and I think there's a ton of really good quarterbacks. Like, even Drew Brees, like, if you're going to play a guy under 80 speed, you can get some great pocket passers. There's an Elway, there's a Stafford, so there's some good options right around the ratings that he has. So just don't overpay early until he maybe gets that conductor, and then maybe look to cash in, something like that. All right, DeMarco Murray. He had a card earlier in the season that we'll take a look at, and a lot of people liked it that used it, but it just wasn't out there all that much. I think it was, let's find out. There was a flashback that came out, and then there was a team of the week. This team of the week was tough to get your hands on, I think. It had 90 speed with 90 truck, and now this DeMarco Murray has 92 speed, 94 acceleration. His truck jumps up to 92, and his agility is at jumps to 91. So I wanted to look at his elusive. You'll see it at 88. If we're to chemistry him up, his truck can get to 95. His elusive, let's see, can only stay at 88, so he can't get over that hump. But I like this style of back. He's got pretty good catch in traffic and pretty good route running for a bigger, heavier back. And his strength is 87. That is really good. So 720, is too much at the moment, but he'll come down, I would guess, quite a bit. I compare him to Adrian Peterson. I compare him to maybe the new Toby Gerhart as kind of a straight-ahead truck style. Compare him to the Frank Gore, compare him to Emmitt Smith, and see if he fits in your range. A shout out to Mudhead for this really cool new feature where you can click on and off chemistry boosts to see how the players adjust according to their chemistry. This is one of the biggest features, I believe. It's going to make figuring all that stuff out much, much easier. The best part is going to make me look a whole lot smarter. So I appreciate Mudhead adding that to the list. DeMarco is a traditional fullback with really good run block. If you need a run blocker, you play out of the I form, here's a guy you can utilize. However, to me, I don't really use that position, so I don't want to pay up extra. I know a lot of people have settled with, Odewale, or the guy's name I keep messing up, from the Raiders. you can grab a cheaper blocker version and then just play, you know, a halfback at fullback. Like you could play DeMarco Murray at fullback, or you could play a cheap Derrick Henry at fullback if you want that strength and truck for a short yardage run. So we won't break down too much of DeMarco. And then we have 3 receivers at skill positions that are pretty important right now. So we'll see where these guys would fit in our lineup and if we project them to be budget or not. Amari Cooper, who had an amazing 91 last year, grabs an item with 92 speed, 95 spectacular catch, 93 route running, and 93 catch in traffic. He's also got very good chemistries with route running at 1 and then deep threat at the 2. So if we, off the bat, you would want to make sure you have route running. Let's see, we can get him to 95, and we really want him at 96. So that actually hurts a little bit because that's kind of that next threshold that would make him even better. Because you're going to get his spec up to 96, potentially 98 spec if you use Kelvin Benjamin, 95 catch and traffic if you use Hopkins. He would be one of the best all-around receivers in the game if his route running was 1 point higher, and you could see it that it can't get there quite without that chemistry active. So that is my only thing, but still saying that he's still overall really, really good. I know people are looking at his item last year. I think it's got 95 speed on it, but this is kind of where a more traditional, like he falls in more traditional with how the speed is in the game at this point in Ultimate Team. So 92 speed not doesn't worry me at all. And I really like the balance on the Amari Cooper. That's one of the things that makes him so good. You would start him to activate his stuff, and then you would still keep a guy like Jordy or Larry, who are the physical run blockers that have the 96 stock. That's why 96 stock to me, guys, is just so huge, because you don't have to start them, and then you can use it to boost other guys. Price-wise, though, I mean, you got to compare him to Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, some of the legends that came out, because they're all going to settle in at the same price, and then it's really just preference as to who you want to use for your specific scheme. Stephon Diggs, he had a really good team hero at the start of the year. Look, he's got 95 route running, and I like his chemistries even better. They're more focused on the route running, which at this point I fancy, as you can tell. 93 acceleration. If we boost him up, you see his tier 1 route runner is active because it already has double. If we grab him to tier 2, he gets to 97. Now that's kind of overkill because you don't really quite need it there, but you'll see that his route running jumps up to 98. So this is a 98 route running item with 95 agility if you're maxing him out. 92 catch and traffic is good. You could boost him up with DeAndre Hopkins. So he's not going to be a spec guy because he's a little bit shorter and it's just not a rating. 95, I mean, it's amazing, but you're going to use this guy for tough routes, similar to like an Antonio Brown, similar to who else could you compare him to? I still think the AB value-wise could be just as close. So before you pony up too many coins, unless you have what it takes to grab them, just keep an eye on those guys. And remember, you've got to start him to get that chemistry active because he is at 95. But you can get it with either one slot expert or one route runner. And so that's why it's good to have. And then the last guy on the list is Jordan Reed. He's one of my favorite tight ends in Ultimate Team for route running. So I would compare him to Dallas Clark. I think that's his closest move, and he has double SE, so he'll activate that. So the second you activate him, you've got one of the best corner route running players in the game. You don't have a good run blocker, but I mean, he's got 77 strength run block. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You can't complain too much about that. 96 route runnings basically as long as he's starting, and then he has chain mover. So say you were to activate both of those, 96 catch and traffic tight end with 97 route running and 94 spec, and he's 6'3". He's 6'3". So think of him, compare him to Dallas Clark. I know the freeze ghost Dallas Clark is pretty much the best route runner in the game. And then you have basically 4 different types of tight ends. You have like straight beef blocker guys who are slower. You have straight speed guys like Ladarius Green who don't have route running and can just run drags and streaks, and that's an option. And like 6'6", Jared Cook. You have route runners like Dallas Clark, Jordan Reed, and then you kind of have like big catch and traffic / spec guys. Kyle Rudolph, he's a catch and traffic guy. Nick O'Leary that just came out. Tyler Eifert, like they're more in the 80s. They're taller, but they get bigger. Gronk, and he can run block too. So this is a specific type, but I wouldn't overpay depending on Dallas Clark's cost. But I know people love him, and I think this Jordan Reed's going to play really, really well for you if you get him in the right position, those corner routes. So those are the position heroes, guys. Let me know who you're going to pick up, and did you work on your binder, work on your elite badges to get ready for these? Or are you now saying, okay, now that I've seen offensive, I'm going back to the defensive guys. I think people are going to focus too much on offensive. I'm going to go to defensive and pick up those guys whose prices have now come down. Maybe you're going to go to the campus heroes that have been coming out. So let me know in the comments. These players definitely more for the guys that are looking to have those top-end teams rather than the budget guys at the moment, but they will help the budget guys come down in price. So I'm excited to see how you're going to attack this weekend. And remember, a big weekend for those that are trying to grind the last part of that leaderboard. So stay tuned, and we'll see you live from New England in Buffalo for the Club Series on twitch.tv/Madden. All right? Until next time, guys, this is ZFarls reminding you that sometimes Madden's easy, sometimes Madden's hard, but no matter what, you gotta lock up.